stop scrolling for a second, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change the way you think about attraction, and it's not something most men are ever told. Younger women are watching, analyzing, and reacting to men in ways that are invisible, instinctive, and shocking. They are silently craving qualities in men that almost no one is teaching you. And the truth is, most men are doing everything wrong without even realizing it. Imagine walking into a room and feeling eyes on you, not because you shouted, not because you showed off, not because you showed off, not because you tried to impress, but because something about your energy is magnetic. Something about the way you move, the way you carry yourself, the way you think draws attention without effort. That's the energy women crave. That's the power almost no man ever masters. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the 5 rules that make younger women secretly crave older men. These are not tricks. These are not manipulations. These are psychological truths that, when applied, completely shift how people, especially women, see you. We're talking confidence that doesn't brag, attraction that doesn't chase, emotional depth that pulls them in, the ability to challenge without pushing away, and a silent dominance that commands respect without saying words. If you've ever wondered why some men seem to have women drawn to them effortlessly while others struggle their whole lives, this is your answer. Watch closely, because once you understand these 5 rules, nothing about your presence, your relationships, or the way women respond to you will ever be the same. By the time we're done, you'll see the invisible codes of attraction that everyone else misses, and the moment you step into them, you become unforgettable. So don't blink, don't skip. Stay with me until the very end. This isn't just advice. This is a blueprint for magnetic presence, and it's about to change everything. Listen closely, because this is where most men completely misunderstand what makes them irresistible. Confidence is not about shouting the loudest, showing off what you have, or trying to prove yourself to everyone around you. Confidence, the kind that younger women secretly crave, is far subtler. It's a quiet, unshakable certainty in who you are and what you stand for. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't demand attention. Yet, ironically, it draws attention like gravity. When you walk into a room and carry that kind of presence, people notice. They can feel it even before you speak. It's magnetic. It's powerful. And it's rare, which is why most men fail at it. True confidence begins with self-mastery. It starts with understanding your own value and refusing to let anyone, situation, or fleeting emotion dictate your sense of self-worth. Too many men rely on external factors, money, looks, status, to feel confident. That's fake confidence. That's fragile. Women, especially younger women who are naturally attuned to emotional energy, can sense it immediately. They can feel when a man's confidence is conditional. But when a man knows who he is at his core, when he is comfortable in his own skin without needing anyone else's approval, something shifts. He becomes noticeable. He becomes unforgettable. There is a philosophical depth to this idea. Confidence without arrogance is grounded in humility and self-awareness. Arrogance is loud, defensive, and brittle. It demands recognition and reacts poorly to challenge. True confidence, by contrast, is silent but unshakable. It does not need to declare itself because it exists independently of opinion. It's like a mountain. It doesn't need to announce its height to be majestic. And younger women are drawn to this because Consciously or unconsciously, they recognize stability, they recognize security, they recognize a man who has conquered his own internal chaos and stands firm regardless of external pressures. That is deeply attractive. But developing this kind of confidence is not easy. It requires introspection, discipline, and honesty with yourself. You have to confront your fears, acknowledge your weaknesses, and still choose to act decisively despite them. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it is moving forward in spite of it. When you cultivate this mindset, every interaction becomes a demonstration of your inner strength. You do not need to dominate conversations or boast about achievements. Your calm, assured demeanor communicates more than words ever could. And this is what younger women crave: men who are self-possessed, who exude a sense of calm power that makes them feel both safe and intrigued at the same time. Here's the subtle truth. Women are wired to notice emotional signals. They may not articulate it, but they instinctively sense who is in control of his own life and who is controlled by circumstance or ego. Confidence without arrogance signals emotional stability, a trait that is universally attractive. When a man walks with quiet assurance, when he speaks with clarity and certainty but without neediness, younger women feel a magnetic pull toward him. It's not manipulative. It's not a trick. It's the natural consequence of living fully in alignment with your true self. It's also important to understand the difference between being confident and being intimidating. True confidence is inviting. It makes people, including younger women, feel curious and drawn in, not scared or diminished. Arrogance pushes them away. Overconfidence creates tension. Quiet confidence creates fascination. If you master this balance, you are no longer just another face in the crowd. You become a presence that demands attention naturally without forcing it. Confidence without arrogance also reflects maturity. Younger women are subconsciously searching for men who are emotionally and psychologically advanced, men who have lived, learned, and grown. A man who demonstrates quiet confidence communicates that he has overcome challenges, that he has experience, and that he understands himself and the world in a way that is grounded and reliable. That is not something they read about in a book or see on social media. That is something they feel, and feeling trumps everything. Now, let me be clear. Confidence is not static. It is built daily through intentional action, reflection, and choice. It is strengthened when you honor your word, when you respect your boundaries, when you make decisions that align with your values. It is tested when you face rejection, criticism, or failure, and it deepens when you refuse to crumble under pressure. Every time you act from this place of inner certainty, your confidence grows. Every time you allow fear or ego to dictate your actions, you chip away at it. And younger women, whether consciously or not, are incredibly sensitive to these patterns. They are drawn to consistency, to men who live in alignment with themselves, not those who bend like reeds in the wind. So if you want to be the kind of man who younger women secretly crave, start here. Build a quiet, unshakable confidence that does not need to prove itself to anyone. Walk into every situation knowing your worth and refusing to compromise your integrity for fleeting approval. Speak when necessary, act with clarity, and stand firm even when the world pushes back. This is the kind of confidence that commands attention without demanding, that inspires respect without arrogance, and that draws attraction naturally, effortlessly. Remember this: confidence without arrogance is not about being noticed. It is about being unmovable, unshakable, and true to yourself. When you achieve that, everything else, respect, attraction, admiration, follows naturally. The women who notice you most deeply, the ones who crave your presence without realizing why, will feel it instantly. They may not say it, but they will be drawn to the calm, commanding energy that comes from a man who knows himself and refuses to be defined by anyone else. So today, take a step toward that. Own your worth. Walk with quiet certainty. Let your presence speak louder than your words, because when you do, you will discover a power within yourself that not only changes how others see you, but transforms the way you move through the world. And that ultimately is the kind of magnetism no one can teach, but everyone notices. Confidence without arrogance is not a choice for some. It is a way of life. Choose it, live it, and watch how the world and the women around you respond in ways you never thought possible. Now, let's talk about something most men completely misunderstand. They think attraction is about effort, about chasing, about proving themselves over and over again. But the truth is far more shocking and far more powerful. The men who younger women secretly crave are not the ones running after them, desperately trying to impress. They are the men who attract without trying, who live with purpose, and who move through life with a sense of self-contained power that naturally draws people in. This is one of those truths that shakes most men to their core because it contradicts everything they've been taught. You have to understand this. Chasing is a sign of neediness. When a man chases, he communicates insecurity, dependence, and lack. Of control over his own life. Even if he doesn't realize it, his energy radiates desperation. And younger women, whether consciously or unconsciously, sense it immediately. They are wired to detect emotional patterns, to feel what a man truly believes about himself. If a man is chasing, it tells them he is seeking approval, validation, or fulfillment from an external source rather than generating it from within. That energy is unattractive. It repels, it pushes them away, no matter how handsome or charming he might be. On the other hand, a man who attracts understands his own life, his own mission, and his own purpose. He does not rely on external validation to feel worthy. He moves through the world as if he owns his space, because in a way he does emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When a man demonstrates this self-possession, women are drawn to him without him needing to chase. They sense it, they feel it. They notice that he is not defined by fleeting opinions or shallow desires, and that alone creates magnetism. There is a psychological truth here that most men overlook. People are naturally drawn to what is rare, stable, and autonomous. A man who is constantly chasing is abundant in visibility, but lacking in substance. A man who attracts naturally is rare because he lives by rules most men never learn. He cultivates his own life, respects his own time, and honors his own energy. And that is exactly the type of man younger women crave. Someone who is already complete, someone who doesn't need them to validate his existence. That sense of independence is intoxicating. To understand this better, consider the difference between scarcity and abundance. Chasing comes from scarcity. It comes from the fear of losing, the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being enough. Attracting comes from abundance. It comes from the confidence that life has value, that you have value, and that relationships are not about filling a void, but about sharing a life that is already full. Younger women are drawn to abundance, to the calm, self-assured energy of a man who is fulfilled on his own. That energy communicates strength, reliability, and security, the kind of qualities that go far deeper than appearances or charm. Attracting also requires subtlety and patience. It's not about showing off or trying to make someone chase you back. It's about living your life with purpose and passion so fully that people are naturally curious about you. They notice your accomplishments, your demeanor, your confidence. They feel your energy and they are drawn to it. This is why the most attractive men are often the ones who seem to have other priorities, other goals, and other passions. They are not desperate for attention because they are busy living fully, and that very fullness is magnetic. Here's something most men never hear. Chasing creates imbalance. It makes you lose control of your own life and hands the power over to someone else. Attraction, on the other hand, creates equilibrium. When you focus on your own growth, your own ambitions, and your own purpose, you naturally attract those who resonate with that energy. You are no longer a pleaser or a follower. You become a man who sets the tone, who commands attention without demanding it, who draws others into your orbit naturally. And that is the exact type of man younger women secretly crave, the man who is self-sufficient, intriguing, and unshakably grounded. But understand, attracting is not passive. It is not sitting back and hoping someone notices you. It is intentional. It is strategic. It is about living in a way that maximizes your energy, your presence, and your value. It is about understanding human psychology, social dynamics, and emotional intelligence so deeply that your very existence becomes compelling. You do not chase because you do not need to. Your presence is enough. Your confidence is enough. Your clarity of purpose is enough. And this is exactly the kind of energy that younger women can't resist. They are drawn to it subconsciously, feeling a pull they cannot articulate. There is also a moral dimension to this. Attracting rather than chasing aligns with integrity and respect for yourself and for others. It ensures that relationships are not built on manipulation, desperation, or conditional attention. Instead, they are built on natural connection, mutual respect, and genuine admiration. When you attract, you do so from a place of authenticity, not performance. That authenticity resonates at a deep level with younger women, creating attraction that is not superficial but enduring. So, if you want to become the kind of man who younger women secretly crave, you must learn to shift your energy from chasing to attracting. Stop giving your power away by seeking validation externally. Start cultivating a life that is full, meaningful, and rich with purpose. Invest in yourself, in your passions, in your growth. When you do, you create a gravitational pull that is impossible to ignore. Women will notice your independence. They will sense your self-possession. And without you saying a single word, they will be drawn to you, wanting to be a part of the world you have already created. Remember this: chasing diminishes you, but attracting elevates you. One comes from fear, the other comes from mastery. One seeks to fill a void, the other shares abundance. If you want to experience true magnetic power, you must live a life that makes chasing unnecessary. When you do, you become irresistible, not because you are trying, but because you are complete. So, today, take this insight seriously. Step back from the habit of chasing approval, chasing attention, chasing validation. Focus on your own growth, your own purpose, and your own energy. Live a life so compelling, so full, so magnetic that those who are meant to be drawn into your world cannot resist it. That is the power of attraction, and once you master it, you will never go unnoticed again. Now let's dive into something that most men completely overlook, yet it is one of the most powerful forces in attraction: emotional depth. Many men think attraction is purely about looks, charm, or even confidence. Those things matter, yes, but they are surface level. They are temporary. Emotional depth, on the other hand, reaches beneath the surface. It is the kind of energy that younger women secretly crave but rarely admit. It is the invisible force that draws them in, makes them linger, and makes them wonder why they feel such a strong pull toward you. Emotional depth begins with self-awareness. You cannot offer understanding to another person if you do not understand yourself. This means knowing your emotions, acknowledging them, and taking full responsibility for how you react to the world. Most men avoid this. They distract themselves with work, money, or ego-driven pursuits because facing their own emotions is uncomfortable. But the moment a man confronts his own inner world, the moment he becomes fluent in his own feelings, something changes. He moves through life with a calmness that is magnetic. He reacts with wisdom rather than impulsivity. And younger women notice this not because he tells them, but because they feel it in every interaction. Emotional depth is not the same as being overly sensitive or sentimental. It is not about wearing your heart on your sleeve in every situation or being ruled by emotion. True emotional depth is the ability to feel deeply, understand what is happening beneath the surface, and respond with intelligence and composure. It is the difference between reacting and responding. Younger women are instinctively drawn to men who can hold space for emotions without being overwhelmed by them because it signals strength, stability, and maturity. It is rare, and rarity is always magnetic. Think about it this way. Most people live at the surface. Conversations stay casual, interactions remain superficial, and connections rarely go deeper than appearances. Emotional depth allows you to break through that barrier. It allows you to see beyond what someone says and understand what they truly feel. This does not mean manipulating them or pretending to know everything. It means being attuned, listening actively, and responding with presence and understanding. That attentiveness creates an unspoken bond, a subtle but powerful sense of intimacy that younger women crave. They feel it even before they consciously recognize it. There is a psychological reality behind this that most men ignore. Women are wired to seek emotional resonance. They are drawn to men who can match their emotional wavelength, who can meet them where they are without judgment or insecurity. If a man is shallow, reactive, or emotionally inconsistent, he creates tension and confusion. But if a man demonstrates consistency, emotional intelligence, and depth, he creates safety. And safety, paradoxically, is one of the most seductive qualities a man can possess. Women may not talk about it openly, but they sense it. They feel a magnetic trust towards someone who can hold emotional space for them without needing to control it or escape it. Emotional depth also requires vulnerability, but only the kind that strengthens, not weakens. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but it is actually a sign of strength. It is the courage to show parts of yourself that are real, honest, and sometimes imperfect. Younger women are drawn to Amar, on who are not afraid to acknowledge their inner world because it signals authenticity. They recognize that behind the calm, confident exterior lies a man who is fully aware of his humanity. That awareness is irresistible because it creates connection, trust, and fascination all at once. At the same time, emotional depth is about balance. You must know when to share and when to hold back. You must be able to feel deeply without being consumed by your emotions. You must listen without judgment, guide without controlling, and respond without overreacting. This balance is subtle, and it is what separates men who are superficially attractive from men who are deeply magnetic. Younger women may not always articulate it, but they sense the difference immediately. They feel drawn to someone who can navigate emotional complexity with grace, intelligence, and stability. There is also a philosophical aspect to this. Emotional depth reflects a broader understanding of life, relationships, and human nature. It signals that you are not just living moment to moment, reacting to external stimuli, but that you are consciously aware of your internal world and the world around you. That awareness allows you to move with intention, to connect with authenticity, and to create an energy that is profoundly compelling. Women sense this as a kind of quiet power, a man who understands not only his own emotions, but the emotions of others, who can navigate them with wisdom rather than chaos. Emotional depth also elevates your entire presence. When you cultivate it, you stop being predictable. You stop being one-dimensional. You become layered, nuanced, and intriguing. Every interaction carries subtle signals of intelligence, empathy, and composure. Younger women are drawn to these signals because they are rare. They feel curiosity, fascination, and attraction all at once, often without knowing why. That is the power of emotional depth. It is invisible, yet undeniable. To cultivate this kind of depth, start with observation and reflection. Pay attention to how you feel, why you feel it, and how it affects your actions. Practice listening with full attention, noticing not just words but tone, energy, and body language. Learn to respond from awareness rather than habit. Study human behavior, psychology, and emotional patterns, not to manipulate, but to understand. And most importantly, develop your capacity to be present, steady, and unshakable, even when emotions run high. When you do this, you will notice a profound change. Women will feel drawn to your calm intensity, your emotional stability, and your ability to hold space for them without judgment or drama. They will begin to crave your presence, even when they don't fully understand why. They will trust you instinctively. They will feel safe, intrigued, and magnetically pulled toward you. And that is a level of attraction that goes far beyond superficial charm. It is deep, psychological, and transformative. So understand this. Emotional depth is not optional if you want to become irresistible in a meaningful, lasting way. It is a skill, a mindset, and a way of being. It is the quiet force that allows you to connect, inspire, and attract without effort. When you cultivate it, you create an energy that younger women cannot ignore, a presence that lingers long after you leave the room. Remember this: emotional depth is the bridge between superficial attraction and true magnetism. It is what separates men who are noticed for a moment from men who are remembered for a lifetime. If you want to become the kind of man younger women secretly crave, you must master your inner world, understand theirs, and move through life with intelligence, empathy, and unshakable composure. That is the power of emotional depth, and it is yours to cultivate. Now let's get into something most men completely overlook: the art of challenging a woman in the right way. Many men think attraction is about agreeing, complimenting, and always being nice. They believe that saying yes to everything, avoiding conflict, and trying to make a woman feel comfortable at all times is the key to connection. But here's the truth that will shock you. Women are not drawn to men who are always compliant. In fact, over-agreement often kills attraction faster than rejection ever could. What younger women secretly crave is a man who can challenge them, not with aggression or control, but with intelligence, confidence, and subtlety. Challenging her in the right way is a sign of strength. It communicates that you are not afraid to stand your ground, that you are not easily swayed by external pressures, and that you have a clear sense of who you are. This does not mean being argumentative or confrontational. It does not mean proving her wrong or dominating her opinions. It means engaging her mind, questioning assumptions, and introducing a perspective that she has not considered. It means creating a dynamic where interaction becomes stimulating rather than predictable. Younger women are secretly drawn to this because it sparks curiosity, respect, and emotional engagement all at once. Think about the psychology behind this. Humans are wired to respect competence, courage, and autonomy. When a man challenges a woman thoughtfully, it signals that he is secure in himself, confident in his values, and capable of intellectual and emotional engagement. It signals that he is not a passive participant in life, but a man who moves with purpose and clarity. That energy is magnetic because it creates tension, a healthy tension that excites the mind and stimulates the emotions. This is very different from conflict or drama. This is engagement at a higher level, where respect and fascination are intertwined. Challenging her also demonstrates that you are not defined by external approval. Most men fall into the trap of seeking constant validation. They say what they think she wants to hear. They avoid disagreement and they suppress their own opinions. This approach might seem safe, but it is ultimately boring and forgettable. Women sense when a man is bending to fit their expectations, and that predictability is a silent turnoff. On the other hand, a man who can challenge her with calm authority signals that he is guided by his own principles and is not swayed by fleeting moods or social pressure. That independence is incredibly attractive because it communicates integrity, stability, and strength. There is also an emotional component to challenging her. Younger women crave men who can provoke reflection, self-awareness, and growth. When you challenge her in the right way, you invite her to think, to examine her own beliefs, and to explore her potential. This is not manipulation or coercion. It is the act of creating an environment where growth and curiosity are possible. Women sense this instinctively. They feel mentally stimulated and emotionally engaged in a way that superficial charm or constant agreement can never achieve. That is the secret power of challenge. It activates both the mind and the heart simultaneously. However, challenging her must be done with intelligence and subtlety. It is not about proving dominance or creating unnecessary tension. It is about carefully balancing firmness with respect, curiosity with attentiveness, and honesty with tact. A man who over-challenges, who critiques constantly, or who seeks to win arguments creates resistance, defensiveness, and resentment. But a man who challenges in the right way, thoughtfully, confidently, and sparingly, creates intrigue, admiration, and attraction. It is the art of speaking truth without aggression, of asserting perspective without arrogance. Challenging her also reinforces the principle of boundaries. When you engage her thoughtfully, communicate that you are not a pushover. You demonstrate that you have standards, values, and expectations, and that you do not compromise them to gain approval. Younger women are drawn to men who can set and maintain boundaries because boundaries communicate strength, reliability, and self-respect. Without boundaries, attraction is shallow, fleeting, and often one-sided. With them, attraction becomes deep, mutual, and lasting. Philosophically, the act of challenging her aligns with the idea that relationships are a dynamic exchange, not a static arrangement. Life itself is full of tension, growth, and learning. A man who can mirror that dynamic in a relationship, who can engage, challenge, and stimulate is offering something far more valuable than comfort alone. He is offering a connection that is alive, evolving, and intellectually satisfying. Women notice this at a level beyond words. They feel it in every interaction, every glance, every subtle shift in energy. That is the invisible force that makes a man irresistible. Now understand that challenging her is not about forcing your will or trying to dominate. It is about being fully present, fully engaged, and fully yourself. It is about speaking your truth with respect, about inspiring thought and reflection, and about creating interactions that are meaningful rather than predictable. When done correctly, it draws her in, keeps her intrigued, and establishes a level of mutual respect that superficial charm could never achieve. Ultimately, the men younger women secretly crave are those who can combine confidence, emotional depth, and the ability to challenge thoughtfully. They are not boring or compliant. They are engaging, unpredictable in the best way, and intellectually stimulating. They offer a presence that is magnetic because it is real, grounded, and unafraid to spark curiosity. Women may not articulate IT, but they feel it, and that feeling drives attraction far more powerfully than appearance or wealth ever could. So, if you want to be the kind of man who is remembered, desired, and craved on a deeper level, learn the art of challenging in the right way. Stand firm in your values, share your perspective with clarity, and engage her mind without forcing dominance. Respect her opinions, but do not compromise your own. Create tension that excites rather than repels. Be thought provoking, emotionally intelligent, and unwavering in your authenticity. Remember this: a man who never challenges is forgotten, but a man who challenges wisely is unforgettable. He sparks curiosity, admiration, and attraction simultaneously. He commands respect while inspiring fascination. He becomes the kind of presence that women are magnetically drawn to without ever fully understanding why. Challenge is not aggression, it is influence, it is engagement, it is the invisible thread that transforms superficial interest into deep, enduring desire. And so I leave you with this truth: the right challenge is the difference between being noticed and being craved, between passing attention and lasting attraction. Master it, and you become a man whose presence lingers long after you walk away. That is the power of challenging her in the right way. And it is a power every man can cultivate if he chooses to step fully into himself. Now we arrive at the final key, and it is perhaps the most misunderstood of them all: silent dominance. When most men hear the word dominance, they think of control, aggression, or intimidation. They imagine loud voices, forceful behavior, and trying to bend the world or people to their will. That is not silent dominance. Silent dominance is far subtler, far more powerful, and far more magnetic. It is the kind of presence that commands respect without a word, inspires curiosity without effort, and draws people in because they sense strength, stability, and self-possession at a deep, instinctive level. Silent dominance begins with mastery of self. A man who embodies it has conquered the inner chaos of doubt, fear, and insecurity. He moves through life with a calm assurance that is palpable. He does not need to announce himself because his energy communicates authority naturally. Younger women, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to this energy because it signals safety, stability, and unshakable confidence. It is magnetic precisely because it is rare. Most men are loud, reactive, and restless. Silent dominance, by contrast, is grounded, measured, and deliberate. There is a psychological truth behind this that most men overlook. Humans respond to presence, not just physical presence, but emotional and energetic presence. A man who is fully grounded, fully aware, and fully in control of himself naturally dominates a room or any interaction without speaking or asserting overt authority. Women sense this presence immediately. They feel it in the way he carries himself, in the steadiness of his gaze, in the calm rhythm of his speech. That presence communicates something deeper than words, that he is a man who is aligned, centered, and unshakable, and that alignment is profoundly attractive. Silent dominance is not about manipulation or intimidation. It is about being unmovable while remaining approachable. It is about having power without needing to prove it, influence without needing to control, and authority without arrogance. It is subtle, almost invisible, yet it is undeniable. Younger women sense it instinctively because it speaks to a deep part of their psyche, the part that craves security, respect, and the energy of someone who is fully in command of himself and his life. It is the energy of a man who leads by example rather than by force, who inspires trust without demanding it, and who is magnetic without trying. Philosophically, silent dominance is rooted in the idea that true power comes from inner mastery rather than external control. Most men expend their energy trying to control outcomes, people, or perceptions. They raise their voices, assert themselves aggressively, and overcompensate for insecurity. But a man who embodies silent dominance knows that the world will respond to strength that is genuine, calm, and deliberate. He does not need to force respect because his energy naturally commands it. This is why younger women are drawn to it. They sense authenticity, they sense capability, and they sense that they are in the presence of someone who has already mastered himself. Silent dominance is also about consistency. It is not a performance or a facade. It is a steady, reliable energy that remains constant even under pressure. Women are drawn to men who are predictable in their stability but unpredictable in their depths. A man who embodies silent dominance does not react with panic, anger, or insecurity when faced with challenges. He responds thoughtfully, decisively, and calmly. That steadiness creates trust, fascination, and desire. It communicates that he is not only in control of himself, but capable of handling life's uncertainties without losing composure. There is an emotional intelligence aspect to silent dominance as well. It requires deep awareness of your own emotions and the emotions of others. A man who is silently dominant can read situations, sense moods, and respond in ways that create influence without coercion. He understands boundaries, timing, and energy. He knows when to act, when to observe, and when to speak. This awareness makes him compelling, intriguing, and magnetic. Women are drawn to this because it creates a sense of security, admiration, and subtle tension. All at the same time, silent dominance also complements the other rules we've discussed. Confidence without arrogance creates the foundation. Never chasing, always attracting, builds the dynamic pull. Emotional depth creates connection. Challenging her in the right way creates fascination, and silent dominance ties them all together. It is the energy that holds everything in place, the invisible glue that makes attraction lasting rather than fleeting. A man who embodies all five rules becomes unforgettable, not through loud declarations or superficial gestures, but through his steady, commanding presence. The practical reality of silent dominance is simple yet profound. It requires discipline, self-awareness, and intentionality. It requires investing in yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. It requires mastering your fears, regulating your emotions, and living in alignment with your values. It requires patience and observation, knowing that influence is more powerful than force, and that presence is more magnetic than persuasion. It is subtle, but when cultivated, it changes everything. And here's the thing that shocks most men: you do not need to do anything special to be silently dominant. You simply need to be. Be grounded, be aware, be steady. Let your energy communicate authority and stability. Move with purpose and intention. Speak with clarity when necessary. And most importantly, refuse to surrender your inner power to the chaos of the world or the whims of others. That alone creates an irresistible energy that younger women sense instinctively. So, if you want to become the man younger women secretly crave, silent dominance is the final piece of the puzzle. It is the energy that transforms presence into power, attraction into fascination, and admiration into deep respect. It is not about loudness, aggression, or control. It is about mastery, steadiness, and subtlety. It is about creating an invisible pull that is undeniable, compelling, and unforgettable. Remember this: silent dominance is the difference between being noticed and being remembered, between fleeting attraction and lasting magnetism. It is not something that can be faked or performed. It must be cultivated, embodied, and lived daily. When you step into it fully, you do not chase attention. You do not need validation. You do not need to prove yourself. You simply exist in a state of alignment, confidence, and presence, and the world and the women you desire cannot help but notice. So today, commit to cultivating silent dominance in your life. Master yourself, own your presence, and move through the world with unshakable calm and purpose. Be a man whose energy communicates power without words, stability without force, and magnetism without effort. When you do, you will discover a force within yourself that commands attention, inspires respect, and attracts desire in ways you never thought possible.